Fellow Celebrate Recovery members and group leaders. My name is Tommy Harbold, and I'm here to speak to you tonight about why Celebrate Recovery or other faith-based recovery groups are an important part of any recovery process. And I'm also like to encourage you to continue to do the good work that you've been doing, and to not just that, but to get as much training and as you can, so that we can all continue to do the work of Christ. And why do we even need recovery groups? And the reason would be is that in the U.S. alone, there are 15 million alcoholics and approximately 10 million drug addicts. There's approximately 5 to 7 million people addicted to prescription drugs, and each one of those persons affect 5 other people in their lives. There's about 40 to 80 million Americans who are compulsive overeaters, and 5 to 15% of those people will die from the consequences of that. There are about 1 to 2% of adolescent girls that suffer from anorexia or bulimia, and 4 to 5% of college-age women that suffer from anorexia and bulimia. There's 2 to 5 million pathological gamblers in the United States, and over 300 million porn sites, websites, and the people that frequent them, approximately 6 to 8% have some level of sexual addiction. So there is a great need for recovery groups like ours in the United States, and I want to inspire the group leaders here tonight. I have started in the recovery process as a peer counselor in the Capital Area Pregnancy Center, and I did that for 8 years. And approximately 5 years ago, I started with Celebrate Recovery Group here at Christian Life Assembly, and I'm currently enrolled in Liberty University Online to get my bachelor's degree in crisis counseling and psychology. What I would like to tell you today is that there is complete healing with God when God is added into the recovery process. So when His Word and His promises are added into the recovery process, it adds an extra dimension into our recovery. So according to Harvard University study, who studied Alcoholic Anonymous recovery program, only 5% of the people in AA continue past the first year, and approximately 50% of the people who walk through the doors drop out within 30 days. As opposed to the Celebrate Recovery program at Saddleback Church, who has helped over 17,000 people since its inception. And approximately 70% of the CR members there are from outside of the church, and 85% of them go on to complete the program. And approximately half of that 85% go on to serve as volunteers in the church or in their home churches. There is also a study done by Chu, Sung, and Haseo in religious conversion and treatment outcome, and they stated that religious conversion is one of the strongest predictors of a positive outcome treatment, and that converts are 18 times more likely to complete their programs as opposed to non-converts. And the reason being that Christianity, when that's added into it, adds hope. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And the Bible gives us guidelines and hopes for everyone. And 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in the Messiah, he is a new creation. All things have disappeared, and look, all things have become new." And in Acts 13:38 and 39, "Therefore, my friends, I want you to know that through Jesus, forgiveness of sins is proclaimed to you. Through him, everyone who believes is set free from every sin, a justification you were not able to attain under the law of Moses." So we are set free from every sin. The Bible covers every issue that anyone could possibly struggle with. It covers depression, adultery, lust, substance abuse. Ecclesiastes 1:9 says, "What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." So we can always go to the Bible for guidelines on how to work through our recovery process. We have to address sin in the recovery process. Romans 3:23 tells us, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." So we all have to deal with our sin. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that your addiction is caused by your sin, but we must address the sin and come out of the denial and admit that we need Jesus Christ in order to make a full and complete recovery. What is the difference between a faith-based program and a secular program? They're both 12 steps. They both address a higher power. So why is a faith-based program have that extra, ability to help people to recover? And the reason being that in the faith-based program, we name our higher power. And in CR, Celebrate Recovery, we know that that higher power is Jesus Christ. And we know that God is the one and only true living God. And we have his guidelines laid out in the Bible so that we don't have to guess what's right and wrong. We can go to that Bible, and that's how we know that the walk that we have to walk. The other thing is that, as in secular recovery programs, people relate to their addictions. They say, "I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I'm a gambler." Whereas in Celebrate Recovery, we say that we're a believer in Christ and that we struggle with things. But see, God has promised us, he's promised us that we don't have to continue to be our addiction for the rest of our lives. Is that through him there is healing, and that in 2 Corinthians 1:4, he tells us he comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others when they are troubled. We will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. So we can be healed and recovered from our problems. And then what we do is we go on to become servants of Christ and be able to help other people. We don't have to stay in a program for 40 years and to relate ourselves to our addiction. We also don't go back to square one. If you in a faith-based recovery program like CR, Celebrate Recovery, what happens is if you have a relapse, that's fine. You come in. You have peer support that is going to help you through that. And Christ expects us. That's why he died on the cross for us. He knows that we're going to have moments of weakness, and we're going to have times where we make bad decisions, unlike the secular recovery programs where once it can be 20 years, and once you have a drink or fall back into addiction, you have to start from square one. And that is one of the main differences that we have in our two programs. I've seen the power of a faith-based program, and I'd like to give you an example of someone that came to our group. And this young lady came into our group, and she was struggling with prescription drug abuse. She was a nurse, and she had easy access to these drugs. And she thought that she could conquer this on her own power. And she tried, and she tried again. And she relapsed several times. She was here, and during the time she was with us, she came and went, and she had a beautiful young daughter. And one day she was sitting in our group, and she said that she didn't really know if she was saved, or that if she would die, that she would go to heaven. So we did something they don't do in the secular program. We stopped our group meeting right there, and we talked about that. And we answered questions about what it means to give your life to Christ. And she decided right then and there to say the sinner's prayer and give her life over to Christ. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, she wasn't healed immediately. She had several relapses after that, and she had to go to a recovery program, but what happened was she did beat it. She learned that she couldn't conquer it on her own. Through the word of Christ, she learned that she can't be around these things that caused her to be tempted. And within 2 years, that beautiful young lady died of a brain aneurysm. But she died as a new person, a believer in Christ, who was clean and filled with God's joy. She died as a loving mother and as a loved wife. And that is what makes this all worthwhile, is to come in here and to have victories like that, knowing that even though this was a tragedy and she did die, but she died in Christ, and that someday she will be reunited with her family. Is there room for secular counseling programs? Of course there is. Many of our members come to Celebrate Recovery programs, and then they go to their secular meetings throughout the week. It gives them extra support. It helps give a greater accountability base. So there is room for both types of meetings in the recovery process. And many times after experiences the healing power of Christ, these people are able to go back into their secular meetings and be able to help people to name that higher power that they're looking for, the higher power that's going to help them. So both types of programs use similar methods. Christian counseling and Christian recovery programs go a little further in allowing for hope for a new life unburdened by past choices. They take the burden of recovery off the individual and place it on Christ, who can handle it. And they maintain that your past does not have to determine your future. I once received Christ healing through a Christian peer counseling group. And that is why, at my age, I'm going back as a 56-year-old woman to college to get my degree, because I feel that I must share what Christ did for me with other people, and that they can have healing too. And I thank you very much for listening to me tonight, and thank you for coming to Celebrate Recovery.